welcome back. This is part 2 of the Creme Deluxe Burlesque show, Showgirl costumes. I'm going to be sharing all about the process and kind of the challenges I hit and how I solved the problems through that. If you missed part 1, please go back and watch the video so you have a little bit of context about what's going on here. Welcome back. So, as I said in the first video, I'm a graphic designer and I feel that I have a stronger design sense digitally than by hand. I can do loose sketches. They're not very tight and beautiful like Pete Menefee's sketches. They're very messy. But anyway, we'll see that as I progress through the year of all these costumes. So these costumes, I have 9 of these G-strings. Actually, I have 10, but that's a whole other story. I have 9 of these G-strings, and I am going to talk about the process of going through making these come to life. So I started with digital sketches. Actually, I started with the inspiration, and if you watched part 1, you saw what inspired me to create this design. And once I was like, oh, I like that shape. I like how everything kind of curves together. Once I had that, then my idea was to make it Art Deco-y. I did a lot of research on Art Deco fashion, and then, of course, architecture, which is one of my favorite time periods as far as architectural design. And so once I had that, then I started to design these guys so I could get my sister on a test. And so she made all of these embroidery pieces. We have 9 of these fronts, 9 of these backs. I made 10 pairs of these. So there's a right and a left. And then I made 9 of these little guys. It's just silver thread on 2 or 3 layers of fabric. I think it's 3, where there's the nude fabric, and then there's the mesh. And the mesh was a textural choice because I didn't want it to look so flat. So I added the mesh for texture. And so my sister, she got it done, and I was like, wow, that's really freaking cool. It looks cool. And I designed it based on the size of rhinestones. So I knew that I wanted to use mirrors, and I wanted to use 4 different sizes of rhinestones. So I made little circles and I drew this design. And so you see all the little black circles are mirrors and rhinestones. And so I knew that once it came time to embellish, everything was going to fit perfectly. And so I went ahead with that. And then the next thing I had to do was figure out how much fabric I needed. So I figured out the size of what would fit. I had to cut out some paper patterns to make sure this would fit, because I had a few Showgirl G's already that I was using for my burlesque acts. They were nude, they were colored, but I knew it would fit front and back. So I had to basically make a digital sketch of the G-string pattern. And that's how I calculated how much yardage I would need for the G-string. Because one G-string, if you just it takes half a yard of fabric. If you take one G-string and lay it on half a yard of fabric, it takes up it's like a giant Y, basically. So you have all this waist here, all this waist here, and here. And I was like, I can't afford like 10 yards times 2, because it's 2 layers of fabric. That's crazy, even like cheap cotton. And I wasn't going to make cheap cotton because I was not about to spend all this time and money and effort and rhinestones on a costume that was cheaply made. So I made a digital sketch and I laid out the Y's in a way so that I wasn't wasting fabric, and that's how I calculated how much yardage I would need. And it was really cool, and I was like, ooh, I like this. I like that I can see it in my head, but that I can actually measure it out and make a diagram an artboard that's like 90, because I think I got fabric that was 90 inches, which was really interesting. It's not muslin, it's a sort of cotton sateen, so there's a little bit of a sheen to it and a tiny bit of stretch. It's like a shirting, basically. And so for mine, I chose to do a nude lining, because I like the nude linings better. But for all the rest, I used muslin on the inside. So I knew I was going to be wearing this again in the future. I knew that these weren't going to be worn as often. And this one has never been worn, ever. This was the Understudies. So, it's in still brand new condition, which is funny. But what I did was I put my Gazealous Productions. Oh, here it is. My name, Gazella, or my stage name. And I had to do fittings for the girls. So basically how I did that was I bought the fabric, and then I had to dye the fabric because, like I said, it was white. And then so I dyed the fabric, which took a process, and I had to iron it all out and then cut all the pieces. And then once I had the pieces cut, I made the flats. And when I say the flats, basically it doesn't have any it's not elasticized, and it's just two giant Ys that are turned right side out. And then I did the fittings, and I fit all the girls, and it's kind of hard, to come up to someone who, you're naked around all the time, and hey, I'm gonna go around your crotch and pin this and make sure that it's in the right place. That was a fun experience. So I got everyone fit, and they just tried on plain nude. It literally looked like this on the outside, and then I got them fit, and I knew exactly where to sew it and how much elastic to put around so it cinched and fit their figure correctly. And then I had already put my embroidery order in while all that was going, the fittings and the sewing was going on. And I finally got those back from my sister, and she was like, you have to weed the stabilizer. And I was like, are you serious? So she didn't use water soluble. She used the tearaway. So I had to tear this. It was like a plastic sheet that was embroidered in. And I had to tear it away from all of these tiny spots. So I enlisted the help of my youngest daughter, Ara, because she likes doing that kind of stuff. She likes taking things apart, little things like that. So she helped on a lot of those, is just taking those. And at the time, she's 12 now. So this was 2000, so that was 5 years ago. So she was 7, and she was like digging in there and getting it out, and she really had a fun time doing that. So again, it was 9 of these, 20 of these, which were flat at the time, and then 9 of these that had to be weeded of all the plastic stabilizer. This entire process thing, I think, took like 2 or 3 months, and I was working a full-time job and performing in the burlesque shows weekly, so it was a lot. So the biggest part of this entire process was the feather fans, because I had never made feather fans before. I did own a pair of purple ones that were made by, what is it called? Fancy Feather. And I wasn't happy with them. And my friend Marius, the head of the feather department, Jubilee, he and I had connected, and he rebuilt my fans for me. He showed me how to build them properly. And he was like, I don't know why they did it this way. So my purple fans got rebuilt, and he showed me the process, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I looked into buying these guys, and the ones you can buy, let's see, from Fancy Feather or anybody else, they were too short. I think these are, so that's 11 inches, and they're like 9 inches or something. They're very short, and it's because with burlesque, the feathers come all the way down to almost where the hand is, so that all of this is covered, and that's just not the case with Showgirl fans. The Showgirl fans are just big, and like amazing. So the reason Showgirl fans are longer, not only the feathers are bigger and longer, but they're higher up on the staves. So that's also the difference between like the Sally Rand burlesque fan and the Showgirl fans that were made in Paris. So he showed me how the show fans were made. And so I looked into the staves. I wasn't happy with, number one, the price. And my ex-boss had a laser cutter. And I was like, can I cut acrylic? She's like, heck yeah, you can. So I designed the stave pattern for the laser cutter. And this is where Gazealous Productions came from. We decided to put my name on all the staves. So if anyone ever tried to steal my fans, we would know. Because it happens a lot in burlesque. A lot of costumes disappear, especially boas and feather fans. Mine had my name on it, and I laser engraved and then laser cut all of the staves. And I had to find a feather dealer, and one of the girls, the Understudies, she had told me about this dealer she found that sells wholesale ostrich. And they had all the different grades. They had number 2s, number 1s, and then they used to have premium. They don't have premium anymore, which is odd, but I know that like 2 or 3 years ago there was a bird flu and they had to kill all the ostriches in Africa because it just was, it was killing them off anyway. So they had to start over basically. So I can imagine the premium feathers aren't, they're harder to come by right now because they have to be at least teenagers. So there's a little bit of information on the feather world for you. But I checked the other day and they do not have premium. It's a company called Swallow & Sons, and they used to also sell them by the quarter pound, and you could order a quarter pound of feathers for like, I think it was like $120 for a quarter pound of these feathers. And these feathers don't weigh that much. So I was like, okay, well, how many feathers are in that quarter pound? And they said the estimate was on the listing. And so I did the math, and I think I ordered 5 quarter pounds because looking at my numbers, I spent about $920 just on the feathers. And so I went ahead and I bought the feathers, and I was so giddy when they finally arrived, and I was like, holy crap, I have to steam and curve these and pick them out and make them look good and do all this stuff with them, and it was a lot of work. So the process of making a feather fan, and one of these days I'll do like probably a course on it, is you have to have your staves, you have to have your hardwares. The hardware is an additional cost, and I believe the cost of the staves and the hardware was the same, so it was $50 for each. The long screws and then the washers in between every stave. Some I had to have 2. It was just like, yeah. Anyway, I decided to do 13 staves like the show fans. I believe burlesque fans have less than 12 most of the time. And I could have made this more 180 degree circle, but I decided to keep it just a little less. And you can control that. So the components are the hardware, the staves. There is fishing line here to keep it, sorry, feathers in the way. Fishing line that keeps it as open as you want it. So I could have made it shorter in between each stave, and then that would make a less of a wide open circle. And then, if you can see on the opposite side, some of these don't have 2 feathers on them, and that was just because I ran out of feathers. I didn't order enough, and I didn't have enough money to order a whole nother box to fill. And so I did the math, and each fan has 4 less feathers. They don't have, there's 4 that don't have the double, 4 staves. So after trimming the spines and then shaving the spines, you have to shave the spine to put it on. Then I got to the acrylic glue, and it was acrylic hot glue. And so the big hot glue gun, I had to buy a hot glue gun for this project. And I only had 1 injury, massive burn where the hot glue leaked over. I was holding the feather and it leaked onto my finger and landed. A big pool of hot glue landed on, I think it was one of my middle fingers. And it was like one of those delayed responses. I didn't have cold water nearby, so that I really screwed myself. But for future reference, anytime you get a burn on your hand, just put your hand in a latex or nitrile glove filled with aloe, and it will heal in 3 days. Gone. And that's what happened. I continued my process with my stupid glove. I think I cut the finger off and just filled it with aloe and then just put a rubber band so I could continue making the feather fans. Because I think I tried to, because I had to get them ready for rehearsal. So the girls needed to rehearse with the fans. And so that had to be done first before anything else. And then I added a little rhinestones. That's a burlesque thing, but it catches the light and it's just pretty. So that was the process of the feather fans. And in part 3, I'll share kind of more time specifics. I wanted everyone to have jewelry, so I ordered from Wish, hoping it would get here before 2 years from then. That actually happened to my love. But I ordered these sets. It literally came as a set, and it was $3, and I ordered 9 of them. So that was 27. Actually, I ordered 10, I think. I ordered 10 of them. And of course, the first one I put on broke immediately. There's not a very strong weld there. And then came the process of the pasties and curving them and gluing them and making sure that they were on a heavy buckram, which is what I always made my pasties with. And then ordering the embellishments. So I knew I wanted mirrors. Like I said, I did all of that research before I made all of my digital sketches so that my circles on the sketches were the right size. They're all to scale. And so I knew that when it came time to embellish, like I said, everything would fit. So I knew that they had these tiny mirrors, and I knew that they had these large mirrors. And I ordered all the mirrors and all the rhinestones all at once. And it was so exciting. It was the first time I'd ever received packets of Swarovski crystals, because I don't use anything else. I will not use anything else. So finding out that Swarovski is discontinuing a lot of their rhinestones was very sad, like a very saddening news. But I think I'm going to stick with what Jubilee did and not do any colors. And the colors will be in the fabrics, not in the rhinestones, because these sparkle, the crystals start to sparkle better than anything else. I was like, I need to learn how to delegate, and I need to get other people involved in this. And the burlesque girls were so excited to help embellish these things because they've never seen anything created like this before. So they were like, holy shit, let's do an embellishment party because I can't embellish all of these pieces by myself. And so I bought all of the syringes, the glue syringes, and we all had little plates, and she was my assistant for the show. She held the party at her house, which was super awesome because it was in Denver, which was very central. And she opened her house up to us and wine. And we also signed show posters, but that's a whole other story. So the girls helped me, and we knocked it out in 2 or 3 hours, I think. There were 4 of the girls there, and they helped me rhinestone every little thing, and I kind of just showed them, like, this is how I rhinestone. If you have any other better ways, show me. But they were like, no, that's actually really cool. I never knew that this is a better way to rhinestone. I'm like, oh. And I, like, all of the girls, there are a couple of newbies, baby burlesquers they call them, but most of them had been in the industry for 2 or 3 years, so it was funny to kind of like teach, not oldies, but, you know, more seasoned performers that there's a better way. And so it was just a fun learning experience. It was fun, like, camaraderie experience. And so yeah, that's the process. That was 2 months, I think, worth of work. And so in part 3, I'll be sharing times and more of the stats, number of rhinestones and all that. Just like if you're a numbers nerd, all that's going on the next video. So see you next week.